Hey there, it's Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. So you're in for a bit of a weird video today. Basically, I filmed October's wrap-up, just never edited it. I've been on a little bit of a break for a little while, just because, you know, sometimes you need a break for, like, mental health reasons, like... Anyway, so this video is partly going to be filmed today, everything filmed when I'm wearing this clothing and looking like this and in front of this Christmas tree is for November, and everything else I filmed back in November for October. So it's a bit of a mishmash, but at the end of the day I think I'd rather combine the two videos and not have to film all that again, so this is my lazy person's double wrap up. So please enjoy seeing past me talk about everything I read in October. So first up we have Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. This was the first book that I read for the Get Graphic With It readathon, and it's an autobiographical graphic novel by Alison Bechdel, who is the creator of the Bechdel test. It is basically her early life and early years and her journey into realising that she's a lesbian and her relationship with her father, who has his own things going on. I don't really want to go into any more detail because, as I said before, I have a mini review for this one and I'll link all of those down below. I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, mostly because it's incredibly difficult to rate someone's life. I think the format for this one was really interesting, but it also was quite slow. So it was kind of a mixed bag for me. Interesting, but not fantastic. The next graphic novel that I picked up for the Get Graphic With It readathon was Beowulf by Gareth Hines. So this is basically just the old myth Beowulf in graphic novel format. There is nothing new. There's nothing that is overly interesting in this. The myth itself is rather simple. It's basically just big guy defeats troll, becomes king, fights other monsters. There's not much to this. There are some parts of this art, though, that are really beautiful, and I do show a couple of those in the mini review I did for this. Mostly, though, pretty meh for me. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and that is mostly due to the art style. I enjoyed certain images in this so much. They were beautiful, and other images were a bit so-so. The guy really likes to draw muscles. This is a heavily muscled man type book, but I guess it's a heavily muscly men'd book, so there's that. Next up, there's I Hate Fairyland by Scotty Young. So the reason I know about this book is because Kayla from On the Fritz was talking about it, and she made it sound great, and I was like, I need to pick this up, and I did. And I loved it, to be honest. It was really interesting for me. It was really funny. The basic premise of this book is that this girl called Gertrude, she gets taken to Fairyland, and then she has to find her way out of Fairyland. Now, for usual children and visitors to Fairyland, it takes them a couple days maybe to get out of Fairyland, and they go on a really nice, fun adventure. Now, Gertrude gets stuck in there for years and years and years, and she cannot get out, and she kind of grows up, but her body doesn't. So she becomes, not the most pleasant of ladies, and she goes on murdering sprees, and she's just generally a horrible kind of person. It is incredibly funny, though. I really enjoyed the way that Scotty Young just draws everything in there. It's so bright, it's so colourful, and it's just really enjoyable. I also gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars, and I should mention that it is a bit, well, it's very gory, but if you don't mind that, then it's definitely worth picking up. The next graphic novel that I picked up was Odyssey by Matt Fraction and Christian Ward. So Odyssey is, kind of as the name suggests, it is a retelling of the Greek Odyssey, but it's gender bent and it's set in space. So that was really cool. The way that that is done is amazing. There are so many kick-ass female characters in this. There's androids, there's gods, there's just... it's just really cool. I will say that I didn't really like the writing style. I found that it kind of took me out of it, and I don't know if that's because the language is set sort of more archaic to sort of match the original source material, but the way it kind of jolted me out of it because we've modernized this so much that you're in space, you've got gender bent characters, this is so cool, but that it just didn't match to me. They didn't gel well together. But if you can ignore that, and to be fair, I don't usually read that style of book. It's not really the genre for me, like an older, things that are written in a more formal, like, sort of language. They're not really my thing. So perhaps I was particularly not the correct audience for this. I wasn't like the target audience, and I just didn't really gel with me. If you can get past this, there are some really, really cool things that happen in this graphic novel, and it's just really good. You don't need to have read the Odyssey to get what's going on. It probably helps a little bit because just with knowledge of the characters, you can see who's being gender bent and that sort of thing, and like, you know, the sort of encounter that they're about to have. But it's not really necessary. You could definitely pick it up and find it really enjoyable. The art style is absolutely fantastic. It's a bit gory. You know, there's a lot of nudity that happens in this, but in the end I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars, and the 3 is mainly because of the writing. It just didn't gel for me. I feel like if that's more your thing, you would probably give this a higher rating. The next graphic novel that I picked up was Chew by John Layman and Rob Guillory. Now this one I loved. Chew follows a guy called Tony Chew who is a psychopath, and that basically means that when he eats something, he can taste its entire history. So if he eats a carrot, he can taste the dirt that it was pulled out of. He can taste like all of the chemicals that were put onto it, and he can taste the plastic that it was wrapped up in. All different things like that. But it also applies to meat. So if he eats, say, chicken, he can taste where that chicken was, you know, murdered and grew up and all that sort of thing. It also applies to people. Tony ends up working for the FDA and basically investigating a lot of different things, using his cyberpathic powers to do so, and it's so cool. I absolutely loved it. I first heard about this one from Kaz from Cats and Cameras. Honestly, 10 out of 10. I love this book. I'm definitely going to be picking up the next one, so thanks a lot for that one. So I chose to read a manga, which is actually the first manga I've ever read. That's super weird for me, but I really enjoyed the format, and I'm really pleased that I started off with this one. So the manga that I chose was One Punch Man by Yusuke Murata. And I have watched One Punch Man on Netflix. I really love the series. It's dead funny, like right up my street. It's a parody of other manga and hero type stories, and it's just great. I absolutely loved it. If you have seen the anime and wondered what sort of adaptation this was, it's like spot on. There are just strips from here that I can just see on the anime. They did that so well, and I really love reading this. I'm definitely going to be continuing on with the series. I love all the characters. They are just fantastic, and if you just want something that is funny and will sort of take the mick out of itself, then this is what you want to go for. Then to my final graphic novel of the Get Graphic With It readathon, I picked up Attack on Titan, the Colossal Edition, because I needed to read this nearly 1,000-page book in a day, but I did. That has possibly been one of my greater achievements this month. Don't worry, it's only downhill from here. Attack on Titan is again an anime that I watched and absolutely fell in love with. I've only seen season 1 though, because I'm Netflix bitch, and that's on Netflix, and I haven't got Crunchyroll yet. Shame on me. So Attack on Titan follows humanity in years to come, basically, where these things called Titans exist, and they've basically driven humanity into one city. And the Titans kill people, basically. They don't kill them for food, they kill them for just the simple act of killing them. They see something, they kill it. They're not really interested in animals, it's just humanity. Humanity has been driven behind these 3 great walls. And you start off with Attack on Titan where the first wall is under siege, and you follow a bunch of people who are training to be in the army to fight the Titans and figure out a way to stop them. It's incredibly dramatic. A lot of people have very dramatic monologues, but I mean, given the situation, you're allowed. So honestly, I would definitely recommend this. It's huge. This covers the first half of the first season. So yeah, look at this habit, right? Habit. I need to read more manga. Get used to that. So the next book has a funny little story to go along with it. I say funny, I don't mean funny. It was quite annoying for me, but also So the book that I'm talking about is Along Came a Spider by James Patterson. Now, I downloaded the audiobook of this from Audible, and I just happened to have a copy of it as well. So I'm like reading it, I picked it up at work, I started listening to it, and I'm like, great, this has started really quickly, it's got really into it, I keep listening to it, gets to the end of the day, I come home, I start listening to it, because I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm really, really interested in where this is going. And then, 6 hours into it, it was like, the end! And I was like, what? And then it started again. And I was like, huh? What's happening? What's happening right now? So I dug this book out and I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was trying to see where I was and I was like, well, I've read this bit at the end. Why are there 6 hours left? Why is it gone back to the beginning? Basically what happened is my Audible had downloaded it so that the second part had downloaded before the first part, but giving you no indication that that had happened. So there probably was some sort of chapter marker at the beginning, but because I was listening to it at work, I put it on and just gone straight into it, and I thought it just started in media res, to be honest. I was like, got really into it, and it kind of ruined this one for myself, didn't I? So, all in all, this book was really good. It's the first book that features Alex Cross, and I really like him as a detective, and I'm definitely interested to follow more of the stories with him in. My only knowledge of him previously had been from watching Kiss the Girls, but like I'd stopped myself from watching any more of the films. I know there was a film of Along Came a Spider, and I'm definitely interested in watching that because I really enjoyed this book. I think I just would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't like read it middle way through and then the beginning afterwards, because I did go back and read the beginning afterwards, and I had to give it like a week break before I could go back because I was like, this is just really odd. It makes more sense when you read it the right way around, though. That definitely has to be said. But you all knew that. So I liked it anyway. Definitely going to be reading more, but hopefully the right way around. So the last book is a book that I picked up at the end of my holiday. So my holiday back in August. You know when you go on holiday and people leave books, and then if you read books, then sometimes you leave a book and you take a book, sort of thing. So that's what I did, except my mum left her books and I took a book. So there was a book left behind, it just wasn't mine. So the book that I picked up was Senseless by Mary Button. So I've never read anything by her before, and I got really into it really quickly, and then I stopped reading it for like a month and then picked it back up again. Really good, really enjoyed the whole thing. This is pretty standard serial killer book. Some women get murdered and they all have a very distinctive brand that matches another woman who had a brand put on her years ago. So that is the main storyline that's following it. It has a lot of things that have happened in the past with a lot of people who are connected to said serial killings. I'm not going to go into too much detail of this one because I really do think that the enjoyment is in figuring this one out. Like, I found Mary Burton's writing really easy, and it was a very quick read that I wanted to keep reading. I'll definitely be picking up more by Mary Burton, and I'm really glad that I just randomly picked this one up when I was on holiday. So, woo! Me again. Now we're on to the things that I read in November. Now, this isn't going to be much longer because I only read 3 books in November, and you know, that's fine. So the first book that I read in November was Cujo by Stephen King. This book was really interesting for me because I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I think it's my favourite Stephen King book that I've read, and probably because it was least waffly. Like, I didn't find it waffly. I listened to the audiobook because I know that I only seem to enjoy Stephen King books when I listen to them rather than when I read them. So Cujo is a book that follows a Saint Bernard that gets rabies and goes on a bit of a killing spree. And you also have a mother and son that are trapped in a car while Cujo tries to attack them. It's really good, I really liked it. I think for me though, I found it very sad. I'm such an animal lover, and to sit there while you actually get sections of the book from Cujo's point of view, and you go from having him as like this lovely dog that's so friendly, as the rabies starts to affect him more and more, he starts to be in pain, and you know, I found it really sad. I really wasn't expecting this horror book to make me feel sad, but it did, so I guess that's a good thing. And actually, I really enjoyed the other characters, even if the small child was quite whiny, as all small children in Stephen King books seem to be. If you've not read any Stephen King books, that's probably a good one to start with, because I think it didn't drag on too much, and it wasn't overly detailed, which was something that I enjoyed. The next book that I read was a reread for me, and that was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by R.L. Stevenson. Now, I didn't really read this one out of my choice. I read this one ages ago because I wanted to, but this time is because my little brother is studying it, and since I have an English degree, I kind of thought I could be helpful. You know, I actually liked it a lot more the second time, which is really odd. I think because the first time I'd read it, it was prior to me having studied like the Gothic and that sort of fiction. I think that I didn't really appreciate the nuances and everything that was sort of being hinted at and uncovered. So reading it this time, I had a bit of a new appreciation for it, and I liked it a lot more. Also, it was really short, and I feel like my brain can't like process really long books. And the last book that I read in November, well, you remember how I just said that I couldn't really process things and I was having like a bit of a hard time? I picked up a book that was very easy to read, that I've read before, and I was like, I could read this with my eyes closed, it's that simple. And I reread Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. As I said, I didn't have brain power this month, and this was easy, and I've kind of been wanting to reread it ever since everyone keeps talking about the 10-20 anniversary, the anniversary of Twilight. So I kind of picked it up and I was just like, they're so annoying. All of the characters in this book are really annoying. Now don't get me wrong, I was a massive Twihard. Most people knew me for my obsession with Twilight in high school. Bear in mind that was before the movies and stuff, and then the movies started coming out and everyone was just like, oh my gosh, you're so obsessed, what? And I was. But then I got older and could see the problems, and I got really annoyed by the teenageriness of it all. And I know it's a YA book, but people make very poor decisions in this book, and all of the Twilight series. But, you know, that is a rant for another day, I believe. So yeah, I kind of just wanted something easy, and this really fit the bill to me, to be honest. It's a simple book. So yeah, that's it. Sorry if this is overly long. It is 2 months wrap-ups put into ones, so hopefully you guys can forgive me a little bit for that. But hey, at least a wrap-up came eventually. If you read any of the books, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought of them, even if it was Twilight. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!